What are we doing here? And where are we gonna go? It's like we just woke up one morning and then it's welcome to the show. Don't ask any questions, just go with the flow. Make as much money as you can and try your best not to get broke. Copy everything you see on the TV, from the hairstyles to the clothes, and don't think too often, just do exactly as you're told. And if you ever get confused, then just turn towards the alcohol. You'll still hear your thoughts, then just turn up the radio as you learn to live a lifestyle of drugs, sex, and rock and roll. But in all honesty, I just need to know, is there more to the cycle than growing and getting old? Living and dying just to leave behind a happy home and a whole lot of property that somebody else is going to own. I just really need to know before the casket's closed, 'cause I'm not willing to gamble with my soul, nor am I ready to take any chances. These are just simple life questions and I'm just searching for some answers. Like, what are we doing here? And what is our purpose? How did we get here, and who made us so perfect? And what happens once we go, or is this world all really worth it? Questions we don't answer because apparently we don't really have to. There's no purpose to this life and our existence is merely natural. Then in that case, please let me ask you, did you create yourself, or was it somebody else who had fashioned you? 'Cause you're a being that's impeccable, faultless and unparalleled. You're a product of supreme intelligence and I'm merely being rational. For there isn't a camera on this earth that can come close to the human eye, nor a computer that can compete alongside the human mind. And if the whole world was to come together, we wouldn't be able to create a single fly. So many signs, yet we still deny. As science tries to justify that all this could come from none, when it's a simple sum. 0 plus 0 plus 0 cannot possibly ever give you 1. So from where did all this order come? For everything has its origins, a maker, a creator of its own. I mean, the only reason you're watching this video is because somebody had to press upload. So we can believe in the Big Bang, but I'd rather believe in He who caused it to explode. Allah, the creator of everything along with every single soul. The ever-living, the master, the only one who is in control. Unlike his creation, beyond our imagination. And no, he's not a man, nor does he have any partners in association. He's on his own. And no, he did not ever leave us alone. Just like every manufacturer, he left us with an instruction manual. The Quran and Islam, and I'm sorry to jump to conclusions, but it's the only one possible. The only definition of God is the one and only supreme being. It's logical. A book with 0 contradictions, with miracles that are both scientific and historical, all revealed over 1400 years ago. Like the detailed description of the human embryo.
The descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century.
To the mountains as pegs holding firm the earth below, and the 2 seas that don't mix in a complete separate flow. To the planets in orbit, alternating night and day as they stay in flow. The expansion of the universe and the creation of everything from H2O. To the stories of the past and the preservation of Pharaoh. To identifying the lowest point in the land where Persia defeated Rome. The gushing fluid that created man in the glands between the ribs and the backbone. And not a word has changed, it's still the same. So please explain how all this was known over 1400 years ago. To a man who couldn't read or write, as he would recite whatever the angels spoke. And if you still don't believe, please try to come up with something that's even close. But you can't, so we took God as a mockery and his messengers as a joke.
Muhammad could not read or write. How somebody who can't read or write gonna start a religion?
Dismiss these scriptures as legends and tales of the ancient folk, as we live life according to our whims, desires, and hopes. saying this life is the only home we will ever know. We will live then die, then simply turn to bones. YOLO! Correction, after the grass dies, the rain arrives and it regrows, and Allah promises to do the same thing to your very soul and bring you back from your very fingertips to your toes, as the all-seeing supreme being watches us so close, and we are surely being tested in our wealth, our health, and our self, and everything that we've been blessed with. So believe, for we will surely be resurrected and be brought back to our Lord and account for every single deed, as He hands us our books and orders us to read. From the bad to the good and everything in between. You yourself are sufficient for your own accountability, so don't be mad at me. You are the one who thought He wouldn't come back to me. I gave you a whole life long to search after me, but you were busy in all that which was temporary. So read, and glad tidings to all those who believed. And if you disbelieve, read. And don't let that day be the first day you find out what your life really means. Read.
At some point in life, we will all ask the big life questions. Why am I here? Where am I going? What is my purpose? Islam provides clear and concise answers. Allah asks us in the Quran, did you really think that we had created you without any purpose? This video aims to show you the meaning of life from an Islamic perspective. Allah tells us why we are here in a simple but profound verse in the Quran. He says that the only reason we were created was to worship Him. See, when we think of worship, we think of praying, but actually, worship in Islam is far deeper than that. Anything we love the most, or obey the most, or rely upon the most is an act of worship. This means that every single one of us is worshipping something or someone at any time. For example, some people love money more than anything, that their purpose becomes gathering and collecting as much as they can. This love for money is an act of worship. Some people rely on the approval of others to the point where the number of likes they get on Instagram affects their mood and behaviour. This reliance and dependence on others is an act of worship. And amazingly, this is why Allah says, have you seen the one who takes his own desires as his God? When fulfilling our desires becomes our purpose, we have worshipped our own selves. Arguably, this is the biggest God of today. We live in a time where we do what we want and strive to be who we want. If this was what life was all about, why are the richest people the emptiest? Why are celebrities taking their own lives? Why are so many people still unhappy? The answer can be found in the Quran, where Allah tells us that the enjoyment of this life is the enjoyment of delusion. Chasing our desires in the material of this world is a drunk type of enjoyment. True fulfillment comes from directing all acts of worship to the Creator, not creation. Part of directing all acts of worship to the Creator means fulfilling the purpose that He created us for. Like with anything created, The Creator is the one who decides the purpose of His creation, and Allah tells us that He created life and death to test which of us are best in deeds. The test is to see how we live our lives in times of ease and times of difficulty. Will we resort to that which is good? Or will we resort to that which is bad? Since we all perceive what is good and bad differently, we cannot decide the standard, which is why Allah has assured us that the Quran is the standard that clearly distinguishes between what is right and what is wrong. What you'll find is that Islam does in fact cover all bases. It has answers to every life question and leaves nothing out on how we should live our lives. The biggest indicator that life is a test is that no one has the perfect life. Allah has created us with different strengths and different weaknesses. Some people may have wealth and beauty, but also be insecure. Some may be intelligent and confident, but also struggle with health problems. In Islam, what we have doesn't matter. What matters is what we do with what we have. How we use our strengths and weaknesses is what makes us superior in the eyes of Allah. It doesn't matter what colour you are, what gender you are, or what status you have. Superiority comes from your piety and your good action. As you can see, just like we have moral obligations, we also have religious ones too. Only until we do both do we fulfill our true purpose. Only until we fulfill our true purpose does Allah fill every heart with what it's searching for, and that is peace.
الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات طوبى لهم وحسن مآب.
Fulfilling our purpose isn't just to find peace and fulfillment in this life, but also to prepare for what's to come after. Without any judgment after we die, there is no justice. Otherwise, what real difference is there between a corrupt leader with money and power and children literally dying of starvation? This is why Allah asks us if we really think that the evil will be made equal to the righteous. For ultimate justice to be served, there must be something after we die, which is why Allah promises to bring us back to life where we will all be judged on how we lived our lives. If we were careless, oppressed others, and spread corruption, we will be held accountable. If we took care of ourselves, fulfilled our obligations, and made the world a better place for others, we will be rewarded. No injustice will be done to anyone, and Allah affirms this by telling us that even an atom's weight of good and an atom's weight of bad will be brought to account. Allah then decides our final destination, after which there will be no more death, and that is either punishment in hell or perpetual bliss in paradise. Simply just having this belief puts ultimate meaning into our lives. It gives us the best reasons to strive for good whilst also actively avoiding the bad. What better reasons are there than the fulfillment we are all looking for in this life and eternal pleasure in the next? Considering we all make mistakes, isn't the thought of being held accountable for every action worrying? This is where the wisdom and mercy of Allah really shows. Firstly, doing more good deeds wipes out bad deeds, giving us more of a reason to strive to do good and to further fulfill our purpose. This has a knock-on effect and makes the world an even better place for everyone else. Secondly, even the prick of a thorn removes bad deeds, meaning any mental or physical pain we go through benefits us on the Day of Judgment. Again, this allows us to find solace and comfort in the most difficult of times. Thirdly, why not just ask for Allah's forgiveness?
قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
A religion is a set of rules and beliefs that you live your life by. If you don't want to be constrained by religion, you will be constrained by something else. Whether it be the rules you create for yourself, or the rules that your friends, your culture, or your society has imposed on you. Considering Allah has told us that He has perfected the religion of Islam for humanity, do we really think that any other rules we follow are going to be more fulfilling, more liberating than those provided by the Creator? Of course, the next question is, how can we be so sure that Islam is from the Creator? I could start by explaining the rational and intellectual foundations of Islam. I could then show you a plethora of reasons why the Quran cannot be man-made. I could speak to you about Islamic history and the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But since this video is about the meaning of life, I'll take a different approach. Out of the millions of explanations out there for the meaning of life, can you think of just one that is more fulfilling, more complete than the one that Islam provides? Islam doesn't just give the best incentives to make the most out of life, but it also creates an environment for humanity as a whole to thrive. Islam frees us from the worship of that which has no benefit and directs us to Allah, the maximally perfect and the only being worthy of our worship. Islam teaches us that it doesn't matter who has the best mix of strengths and weaknesses. What matters is how we use them and how we cope with them. Life being a test instantly explains why we go through difficult times and makes them much easier to manage as these times have wisdom and purpose. Death becomes something to look forward to and not something to be afraid of. And the meaning of life in Islam applies to every single human in the exact same way, no matter who you are or where you're from. Islam is simple, universal, natural, and it just makes sense. So even if Islam wasn't the truth, it would still be the best, most fulfilling way of life to adopt. For that, it is safe to say that being a Muslim means you have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
The guy's been to all the clubs, he's had all the girls, but he sees there's something missing, there's a void. She's been hustled and she's made a little money and she's sick of being used and abused and all this stuff, and people are ready to get serious.
Yeah.
You know what? But there's a lot of things out there, a lot of confusion for some people. How do they find out what is, they're smart enough to know, look, that there is a creator, but how is it that there's so many different ways and which is the correct one? Talk to us.
First, let's walk through the thought process of someone who comes to the right conclusions. They already recognize that this world was not created without a purpose. That, you know, the intricate creation of even ourselves, down to our very fingertips, is something very profound and amazing. So it couldn't be that this has been designed without an agenda, a cause, a purpose.
No way.
They acknowledge that there's a creator who designed this in such perfection. And any decent human being, one characteristic of decency is gratitude. When somebody does you a favor, it's human decency that you want to thank them. It would be very indecent and inappropriate of you that you had a flat tire, somebody came and helped you out, and you just turned the other way and walked away, or drove off.
That's just rude.
It's not appropriate. It's not common decency.
Not at all.
And human beings have a sense of common decency across religions and culture.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you realize there's a creator, you realize that he's created you in such a powerful way, and he's given you abilities that he hasn't given other creatures.
Yeah.
And he's given you, all of these faculties, not just your physical faculties, which are amazing enough. Like none of us paid for our eyes, and none of us, bought our hands anywhere. They were just given to us. And there are so many others that don't have these things. So one acknowledges, first of all, that these things were given to him or her without them having to pay for them. And then on top of that, their sustenance, water, the air they breathe, the family they enjoy, the house, whatever they may have, is just, they've been poured upon from every direction with all sorts of favors, none of which they had to pay for. It was just kind of handed down to them. So the very least decent person will, in some way in their mind, they want to be grateful. So even you'll find the people that aren't very religious, if they win the championship, will say, I thank God.
Yeah.
Right? There's some sense of decency, right? But in addition, there's also a sense of appreciation. In addition to praise, or rather gratitude, there's praise and appreciation. Meaning he didn't just help us, he helped us in such a profound way. And his creation and his creative power is so incredible. Just the vastness of this universe, if you ever ponder over that, just look at the sky one day and just look at its flawless end to end. That in itself would make you in awe of the creative power of this one creator. We're not even going to name him yet. We acknowledge then that this creator who made me, who has a purpose, well, who's the best person, or the best individual, or entity rather, that can tell me my purpose? Think about this. If I made this cup, well, I made it for a purpose. The manufacturer of something manufactures something for a reason. You make a car so it drives. You build a house to live in. Right? So when human beings construct something, design something, then there's a purpose in mind for which they're designed. So when you acknowledge there's a creator and he created me, and he created me quite well, with this profound intellect that he gave me and all these faculties and abilities, then what purpose do I have? Where am I going to find my purpose? Well, you go back to the manufacturer. You go back to the creator to find your purpose. You can't figure it out yourself. You have to ask him, because he's the one who designed you. So you acknowledge that you are this Lord that's over you, the one who's been providing for you and sustaining you and taking care of you, just like he's the Lord of everyone else. He's the only one that can dictate your purpose. But you also come to another really powerful conclusion, that up until now in your life, maybe you're 25 years old. For 25 years in your life, you didn't live up to your purpose because you didn't even know what it was, right? So you've been in violation of your purpose. Now let's take a step back. If you have, if I own a computer and it doesn't do what I want it to do, right? It crashes. I can chuck it out. I can throw it away. I own it. I bought it for a purpose. It didn't fit that purpose, so I got rid of it. Back in the old days, some farmer gets a cow, right? A cow stops giving milk. He got it for the purpose of milk. It stops giving milk, what does he do? He slaughters the cow.
Yeah.
But you come to the conclusion that you were created for a purpose. there's a Lord over you who expects that you live up to your purpose, but for these 25, 20, 19, 18, whatever years of your life, you've been violating that purpose because you didn't even know there was a purpose. You didn't even acknowledge it. But did He punish you for it? Is it, for example, one of your purposes, one thing under your purpose is not to lie, for example. Every time you lied, was there lightning that struck from the sky and cut your tongue off? Or every time you stole, did your hand just fall off? Or every time you engaged in something evil, something wrong, did you experience the punishment right away? No, He let you go. He let it slide. He keeps letting it slide. And human beings aren't like that. When we expect something from someone, like an employee, right? If I hired you to be my accountant and I expect you to show up at 9 o'clock and you don't show up for 4 weeks, and then you show up at the 5th week it's 3 p.m. and say, where's my paycheck? Then you've already been fired, right? So you acknowledge you've been in violation, and this Lord of yours is far more merciful than anyone else you've ever experienced. His mercy is unimaginable. His mercy is unimaginable. But then you also realize, as unimaginable as His mercy is, if I've come to this conclusion that I don't know my purpose, or I haven't sought out my purpose, and I've been getting away with it all this time, is it okay if I should just forget about this purpose and continue to not think about this anymore and move on? Or if I've come this far in my thought, then I should realize that He knows that I've come to this conclusion. He knows that I realized I should be looking for my purpose. So if I stop my search here and say, I'm thinking too deep, better go back to the life of partying, then there will be consequences. I will have to pay for everything that I did. So once you reach this thought process up to here, now what's the next step? You turn to this Creator, this mysterious Creator that you don't yet know, and you declare one thing to Him. I acknowledge that You're my Creator. I acknowledge that I'm supposed to be in service to You. Whatever I do in this life is supposed to live up to Your purpose that You set for me, but I cannot fulfill that purpose on my own because I don't know where to start.
You need guidance.
I don't have anything. So even if I want to serve You, how am I going to do so unless You help me? Unless You help me. So far you're with me in the thought process.
Gotcha.
First there was appreciation. Then there was His amazing mercy that He let you slide so far. Then there was the idea that there's going to be consequence, so you better get your act together. Then there's the idea that you ask Him, I'm going to worship You. I want to turn to You. I want to give myself up to You.
We need direction
but I
now.
need Your help.
We need direction.
We need direction. So now when you ask Him for direction, you ask Him for guidance. You ask Him for the way, the clear, straight way that to live your life. But you also come to another conclusion. If in fact He is as merciful, if in fact this is the truth, then you can't be the only one. This must have happened before you. There must have been people before that asked for this guidance, sincerely. And there must be people before that were given this guidance, right? So you ask Him, instead of being left out on your own, you ask Him to show you a path that other people have already walked. People have already got, and that He favored upon, right? And then there must be other people who asked for that path. Now listen to this carefully. They asked for that path. They got the path. It's like me asking you for directions. You gave me directions, but I didn't follow those directions, right? I didn't follow those directions. That's such a person who asks for the favor, gets the favor, and then disregards the favor, is someone who the Creator must be very angry with. There's a person who didn't even get the favor. But there's a person who got the favor and then disregarded it. Saw the truth and then put it aside. This person is worthy of the Lord's wrath. And then finally there's a person who asked for the favor, got that favor, received that favor, but then mixed his own thoughts and desires into that favor. God gave him guidance, He gave him the truth, He gave him clarity, but he didn't like everything that he heard. So he put something of his own in there and became lost. Now this thought process that I've explained to you, actually, the reason I went in this route is because this is the thought process of the Quran, the first surah. The first surah of the Quran is actually the thought process of someone seeking the truth. We say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, the first thing. Praise and gratitude belong to Allah, the Lord of all the peoples of the worlds. All the worlds, okay? So we talked about praise and gratitude. Then we say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the unimaginably, exceedingly merciful, constantly merciful. So this was the mercy part. But then we say Maliki Yawmiddin, the master of the day of judgment. There's going to be consequence if I try to take advantage of his mercy.
Yeah.
Then we talked about you reaching the conclusion you want to worship him. Iyaka na'budu, we worship only you. But we can't worship him ourselves, we need help. So Iyaka nasta'inu, we seek your help. We seek your help. What help specifically do we seek? Guide us. So what's the next ayah? Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to and along the straight path. Then we said, this path must not be us alone. There are people that have gone down this road before. So we asked to find the road of those who have succeeded before us, the path of those who you favored, not those who earned your wrath, not those who went astray. Right? So this thought process is what we are asking people to consider. It's universal. I didn't take you to the Quran first. I showed you the logic of that path first, right? Yeah. Once you understand this path, nothing I have said is directly saying accept Islam. All we're saying is be sincere to the Creator, be grateful to Him, accept Him as your Lord, ask Him to show you the path sincerely, and ask Him to show you those who walked down this path before and succeeded, and keep you away from those who walked down this path but then got lost, then went astray, or earned God's wrath, earned Allah's wrath, right? Now for people who are seeking this truth, what is the measuring stick? The first measure is your own conscience. That's the first measure. The second measure is, if in fact it is from God, then it has to meet one primary standard. And that primary standard is, there can be no one between me and the worship of that one true God.
Nobody in the middle.
Nobody in the middle. There can be those who show me that path. But I'm not going to worship these people that are showing me the path. I'm only going to take their teachings to get to the path, because they may be the ones Allah favored. Just like I asked to show me some role models, some guides. Yeah. So these are people that are role models, not ones to be worshipped, but rather to be looked at as role models, as guides. So this sincere attitude, this measuring stick, with this standard, when you try to seek a path, and you try to filter out what is it that's out there, what are the things that people are calling towards, and you find, and then in that quest, when we ask you humbly to consider, just sincerely look at Islam, sincerely look at the Quran, what is it asking you to do? What is it asking you for? What is it demanding from people? You will find it's essentially saying one thing: we created you for a purpose, right? And Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجَنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We didn't create jinn or human beings except that they should worship me.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا